In the current stage of modern Hollywood, often I know what to expect and how I'm going to feel about a film going into it. We've always had trailers, but now with the excessive amounts of story leaks, articles, multiple pre-release screenings, and hundreds of critical reviews before the movie even comes out, I often know whether or not I'm going to like a film before I even set foot in the theater. And the same is the case with Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. Most people suspected that this film was going to be shit based on everything that was being released about it. But now that I've actually seen the movie, I can confirm that this movie was indeed quite poor. I will say that I actually don't think that this was the worst Indiana Jones film. I think it might be a little bit better than Crystal Skull, but that's not exactly saying much. The Dial of Destiny is an unfocused, tonally inconsistent mess of a film that nobody wanted, and only purpose of existing was to serve as a cash grab. And if the early box office numbers are anything to look at, it's not even going to succeed at being that. So the film starts out with a 15 to 20 minute prologue, which surprisingly was actually pretty good. It takes place at the end of World War II, and Indy and this other archaeologist are trying to steal an ancient artifact from the Nazis. This artifact ends up being fake, but what isn't fake that they end up stumbling upon is the Dial of Archimedes. And this dial ends up being the main artifact of the film. This prologue was action-packed, it was fun and well-paced, and the CGI in Harrison Ford was actually pretty decent. It got me somewhat hopeful, thinking, God, maybe this isn't going to be that bad. And then the rest of the film happened. We then jump to 1969, where we meet the modern Indiana Jones, who is just a depressed old man. Ugh, of course he is. This is a movie made in 2023 after all. But things really get rolling when Indy comes into contact with his goddaughter, Helena, played by Phoebe Waller-Bridge. And this is where the film really starts going downhill. Besides the fact that Helena is just annoying, the thing that really pissed me off the most about her character wasn't actually the fact that she was annoying, it was that the writers couldn't decide throughout the film what type of character she was going to be. I don't know, is she supposed to be the caring goddaughter, the do-it-yourself girl boss, the emotionally seductive femme fatale type character that uses people to get what she wants? Well, the writers try to make her a little bit of everything, which makes her incredibly inconsistent. And as a result of this, her character has no visible character arc whatsoever. This film also isn't helped by the fact that the villains are so bad. All the sidekicks are worthless and don't do anything except for constantly fucking up. Mads Mikkelsen plays the main villain of the film as Jürgen Voller, but they don't do enough with him at all to make him interesting or memorable. I can tell that Mads is trying, but even someone as talented as him can't overcome the bad character development that is written for him. The villains also don't really have to work for anything throughout the entire film. They just seem to teleport everywhere. Every time that they are set back by our main heroes, they just appear at the next location they're at. We never have to see them struggle to find out where Indy and Helena are or where they're going. They just appear out of nowhere so that the plot can happen. Which is just the absolute laziest writing possible. Speaking of the plot, this plot the entire time is just one long drawn out fetch quest. I've heard other creators say this, and I absolutely agree with them, and can't really go without saying that this plot is actually shockingly similar to The Rise of Skywalker. They're looking for item 1 that can lead them to item 2, that can lead them to item so on and so on. And yes, I know that the Indiana Jones films have always been looking for different items, but there's just too much bouncing around and too many things that they're trying to accomplish in short amounts of time, and I would often forget or even care about what they were looking for or trying to accomplish in the first place. This flaw is heavily present throughout the second act, which I definitely think was the worst part of the movie and needed 10 to 15 minutes of it to be shaved off. Another thing that really grinded my gears was I hated the ending that they chose to go with. So by the end of the film, Voller thinks that the dial is taking them back to 1939, which was his goal all along. But due to a miscalculation, they end up going back to 214 BC during the siege of Syracuse in Sicily. While they're in the past, Indy comes to the conclusion that he wants to stay. He's been studying history his whole life in books, but for the first time ever, he's actually able to truly experience it. But Helena just says, "Fuck that, you're coming with me," punches him in the face, knocking him out cold, takes him back to 1969, and it's presented to be some sort of happy outcome. And then what follows is the most forced ending I've seen in a while. And that's the end of the movie. So before I wrap up this video, the one big thing that I still haven't talked about is Indiana Jones himself. He starts out as an old, depressed man, but returns to form a little bit throughout the film. I will say that I don't think he was quite as dumb and incompetent as I was expecting, because that's what Hollywood does with all male legacy characters nowadays. But even so, he's still outshined in every way by the new young female replacement, so it basically ends up being the same result. Indiana Jones in this film is truly just a shell of his former self. You see the real version pop up in glimpses, especially in the opening prologue, but it's really not that often. It makes me wonder the thought process of why they'd bring an 80-year-old Harrison Ford back in the first place to do another Indiana Jones film. In conclusion, The Dial of Destiny didn't really subvert my expectations in any way. It's dumb, it's boring, it's poorly written, and fails at pretty much everything that it tries to do. It honestly just felt like homework. As a semi-casual fan of the series, I felt like I had to go see it rather than me wanting to see it, which is obviously a massive problem. Lucasfilm has finally killed off the last good thing of George Lucas's legacy. I'm convinced that their goal is to destroy everything that they touch, and they're incredibly competent at doing that. They can never create anything on their own that's actually good, so instead they'll destroy everything that was good. And I'm certain that this is the way that it's going to be for a long time to come. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you'll be notified when I post my next video. But anyways, that's all I got for today, guys. I'll see you next time.